Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lower League Looks League One podcast. This week, I'm your host, Jamie Johnson, and alongside me, my co-host, Seb Jones. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm surprised with the amount of letters beginning with L you got in there
It
in
was
that
hard, it
first
was hard
sentence.
work.
It was
When I'd
clearly
written
so,
it
but you
down, I don't think I realised just how many there were.
did a good job though. You did a good job. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
uh,
I'm
so,
I'm, I'm good, thank you, Jamie. Are you good?
I'm all right. Very busy day, but we've got there in the end. Um, so yeah, not too bad. We're going to look back over the weekend's games, as well as a couple of transfer window highlights and a sacking in the league that happened about half an hour ago. So I'm sure we got flaming hot takes on that one, Seb. But we'll start with Charlton and their new manager has been announced, and it's Nathan Jones, as was sort of expected and predicted last week. He replaces Michael Appleton. He was a favourite all the way, wasn't he, Seb?
Yeah, he was. I mean, perhaps a different sort of club to where he's been to previously. You know, he had that horrible spell at Southampton, but before that, had a pretty successful period at Luton. But both spells were you deemed successful. Along with that, again, that miserable time at Stoke, that wasn't great. But well, in terms of his time at Luton, that was great. Perhaps I see this as a little bit of a step back for him in terms of Charlton are in the league. You know, they are a League One side. He's not managing League One since he got promoted with Luton just a few years ago. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he sort of adapts to the league. Bear in mind, he's not managed in this division for a couple of years now. The spells he has had in his past couple of clubs haven't gone in his favour really. But yeah, I think a solid manager. I think it's the type of manager that Charlton need to get themselves, further up that league and out of any trouble, and he'll definitely make sure of that.
Yeah, I've always liked Nathan Jones. He's been a sort of manager I've been a fan of, and he's done a bit of punditry work, hasn't he? And over this big layoff he's had since that Southampton job. And I know he gets a bit of stick, doesn't he, Nathan Jones? But I've always quite liked him. Maybe a bit of soft spot for him, but I think, like you said there, he's got a bit of. I think he's got the right character that Charlton needs. In that, like he did at Luton, he can really get everyone together, and I think that's what it needs. It needs someone to go in there and sort of galvanise the team and the fan base and just really sort it out. It's a real mess at Charlton. They're 19th now and just 3 points from safety, and everyone apart from one team have got games in hand on them below them. So it's a really precarious position they're in. It'd be interesting to see if that drop down, if there's a last managing in the Premier League, how different that'll be for him. The big step back to where he was a few years ago. So I think it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. But obviously, the first port of call is keeping him in the league, isn't it? As daft as it might have sounded even a couple of months ago.
It is, yeah, but it's straight in the deep end for him. You know, this Saturday the first fixture is away to Reading. You know, a fellow sort of relegation rival, if you like. And then after they play Reading, they play Lincoln, who were, sort of mid-table, if you like. But then after that, he's got three tough games at the end of February. He's got Bolton away, and then he's got Portsmouth at home and Derby away. So I think Charlton, not only are those three tough games, but Charlton have got a big say in terms of the promotion push because the results that they could get from those three games away at Bolton, away at Bolton, home to Portsmouth, away at Derby, that can affect how things will end up at the top. And you know, Nathan Jones is the top manager to come in and get a result, but whether he can do that against those big clubs, if he can do, then the whole sort of playoff places and the automatic places, they're all in jeopardy because you know Charlton could really disrupt where a team finishes come the end of the season. But those three matches back to back to back will not only be a big test for Nathan Jones because they're probably the three best teams in the league. You know, if we're being brutally honest, or if not, you know, they're all in the top six there or thereabouts. But massively not only for Charlton and Nathan Jones in terms of tough fixtures where they need points to climb away from that relegation zone, which they're not far from at the moment, but also that's going to have a real impact in the top two and also the playoff contention as well.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, it's those first two games, okay, isn't it? Reading, they've got to pick up something there. I mean, a draw's not an awful result in that sort of game. It's a proper relegation 6-pointer, if you like. Another team that are down there, and then Lincoln at home. It's not an easy game. Lincoln have been sort of on the uptick. I know we'll talk about that a little bit later when they got their first win since November at the weekend. So they're sort of looking upwards now, and it's an interesting one for him. In those first two games, how important they are to set a tone before those three difficult games, like you mentioned there, and they lost to Derby at the weekend, didn't they? It was only 1-0, Mendes Lang goal, but I think it becomes a matter of performances as well for Charlton. If they can be sort of looking like they're going to pick up some points, maybe that's the first step for them.
Well, yeah, although they end up losing the match, I don't think 1-0 against Derby is a bad result in terms of where Charlton are in the league, in terms of the threat we all know that Derby have. Until they concede 1-0, Mendes Lang with the goal and assist from Bird, two top quality players. In fact, I don't think. Well, Bird certainly won't be here at the end of the season. I think he's just on loan until the end
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
season for Derby. He got to move it in the window. But Mendes Lang is a great player, great quality player, and yeah, Charlton did well just to make it one. Nathan Jones, we understand watched that game, so at least that gave him some sort of an idea. How what players might play well in certain positions. He got a look at the team, albeit from the stands, but at least he could see what he's going to have to deal with in the next couple of weeks and until the end of the season.
Yeah, you look at that. I mean, that's the key, isn't it? He's seen what he's like, and he's got to hit the ground running. Coming in February, it's a really weird time to be bringing in a new manager, and we'll talk about that in a minute with Port Vale. But it's just after the window. There's nothing he can do between now and the end of the season in terms of new players. Obviously, free agents. Maybe Dwight Gale. He seems to be linked with everyone, but I think it's interesting those first couple of games. If you can pick something up or look like they're on the upturn in those first couple, then who knows? They could sort of disrupt that top three, that top four in that big run of games they've got after that.
Yeah, massively. And Nathan Jones is a quality manager, albeit his past couple of clubs haven't quite worked out. But you wouldn't put it past it for Charlton to climb up and pull themselves away from the relegation scrap.
Yeah, definitely. And a new appointment at Charlton, but a sacking at Port Vale. Andy Crosby has been sacked. 4 games without a win, only 1 win in 8 for them. They're 2 points clear of the relegation zone. Another one of the sort of 7 or 8 teams that are getting sucked into that relegation fight. And again, like I said a minute ago, Nathan Jones, a really weird time to be sacking a manager just after the window's shut. But those run of games, it's put him in trouble and he's gone.
Yeah, and I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the result on Saturday, where they lost to Fleetwood. Fleetwood themselves have been in absolute dire form, but they were able to win 3-0 against Port Vale. And in terms of Andy Crosby, he's had 40 games in charge of the club, but only won 13. And that just sort of shows it's a really poor record. 20th in League One, 2 points, only 2 points above the relegation zone. So clearly, the hierarchy at Port Vale want to change.
Yeah.
It wasn't long. At the start of the season, yes, they lost. I'll get there early. Yes, they lost to Barnsley on the first game of the season, but after that, they went on a great form. They were sort of in amongst that top 6, and then just slowly and surely just dropped off a little bit. And it wasn't long ago. So we're in that top half, if you like, but now only 2 points above the relegation zone. Clearly, they want someone in to pull them away from that danger.
It's one that come as a bit of a surprise. The run of form they've on. I mean, like you said about Barnsley, but they played Lincoln probably a couple of months ago, and they looked really well. I mean, although Lincoln was struggling at that sort of stretch around Christmas, but they didn't look bad. And it's sort of this run of form, so they come out of nowhere. It seems like from the outside that it's brought the end for Crosby.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, it's really interesting. You do wonder. You spoken earlier about the timing. The transfer deadline day only shut 5 days ago. So Port Vale brought in a couple of players, but the manager's not obviously been given the time to let the players
Yeah.
gel, let the players settle, to let them see the qualities. And he's gone. So I do find that really mysterious and really sort of it doesn't quite sit right with me. I'll be honest.
It's a
Um,
strange one, yeah.
it is a strange one. Crosby's joined originally as Darrell Clark's assistant in 2021 and took over a couple of times as interim, but then took over permanently in April 2023. So he's been there a while, not necessarily always involved as head coach, but yeah, it is a weird one, really. It is a really weird one. Who are they going to get in at this late stage in the season? Neil Warnock's not available. Just gone to Aberdeen. I can't think of anyone that come in and turn things around really quickly, which is clearly what Port Vale need. And off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone. And it'll just be down to sort of some. You imagine an in-house caretaker manager probably stepping up from the academy, which is, again is not really what Port Vale needs. They need
Mhm.
someone that perhaps has been in a relegation battle before, that knows what it takes to get out of a scrap, or they're going to end up in trouble at the end of the season.
You've dodged a bullet there because I was just about to ask you who you thought might take over. So you've done really well. Um, I've sort of had a scratch around for some names just before we recorded here, and the only one I can sort of come up with that I can make any sort of sense for, which isn't that much sense to it, would be Gareth Ainsworth. He's out of a
Yeah,
job, and he likes being down sort of the south side of the country. I know he likes being in London, which obviously Port Vale isn't. But that's the only one. That's the thing that's sort of making me second guess that one. Is it's not really he likes staying towards London, doesn't he? But that's the only name I can sort of spring out for that one. It's a strange time to be sacking someone. It really is. Because surely they've had some sort of idea that they were wanting to do it and could have done it even a couple of weeks ago. Then there's a bit of time still in the window. But yeah, maybe like you said, the straw that broke the camel's back. They'd lost to Fleetwood, and that's the unacceptable thing. The sort of the manner of that result, 3-0. That's just cost him his job here at the end of what has been a poor run for them.
yeah. I don't know if Angels would go there, and if he went, would he go maybe on a short deal until the end of the season, or I'm not. You're right. Angels
That's
is
the
probably
only
the
name I
best.
can sort of come up with.
Yeah,
There seems to just be no one really that stands out because obviously you get the same people linked to all the League One jobs that are available, don't you? But nothing
yeah,
really stands out for me. And I know Mark Kennedy's been out of a job since he left Lincoln in October, but I mean, it's just names just sort of plucking out. I mean, it's a really strange situation they're in.
yeah. It's sort of Angels is probably the best of a bad bunch, perhaps that are available and that would come in to take over. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but they need clearly someone to come in and get a couple of results. And it's not helped. I think they've had a couple of injuries, haven't they, up
Mm,
top? So to have the two main strikers out injured, it's probably not helped them at all. But yeah, it's really unfortunate timing. But they're in a really unfortunate position. So then they obviously needed some change and hopefully new manager in and hopefully they can spring bounce and do better come the end of the season.
definitely, yeah. And sort of pivoting really to the January transfer window. Now it's slammed shut, the first podcast since the end of the window. And I'm going to ask you, Seb, who do you think has been the best acquisition or the best signing in the window here in League One?
Well, I'll be honest. To be fair, we were speaking before we came on that it's actually been quite quiet in terms of
Mm,
previous windows, both summer and January windows. It's always said that the January window is a bit of an odd time. It always comes, because no player really wants to leave their club, and if a club wants a certain player, the player is less inclined to leave in January. They'd rather wait till the summer. So
yeah.
generally the window is quieter, but. this January there just hasn't been that much really to chat about.
I think
One
it's
that
one of
did.
them. And I know something that Michael Scabana said in one of his press conferences is like, if they're available in January, there's usually a reason for that. It's one of
Yes,
them. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're not always going to get a great player in January.
That's true. One that did stand out for me was the move that I didn't quite see coming was Aaron Collins from Bristol Rovers to Bolton. We know had done solid really for Bristol Rovers. I think it was their top goal scorer before he left, but moved to Bolton, sort of give them something different in their attack. He's proven himself in League One with the gas with Bristol Rovers, both so far this season and in the previous years as well. When they're in the lower leagues, but it's a great solid signing, I think, for
Mm.
Bolton. Someone, if he doesn't start, definitely a quality option off the bench. And Bolton have already got the likes of Victor Adebayo and Dion Charles as well, so their attack is already quite strong. But then to have Collins come off the bench, he grabbed the assist on his debut against Barnes as
Mm.
well, so already making an instant impact. But I think that would be mine. Yeah. What about yours? Who would be your standout?
So you've been reading my notes. That was on there, man. It's taking the words out of my mouth for that one. Yeah, no, I think Collins is a great sign, like you said, and I picked out a couple.
There's not many more to
Uh,
choose from, I don't think, is there?
I know, not really. I think I've got the only other two. I have Lyle Taylor, who's obviously moved from Wickham to Cambridge in sort of a similar boat, another proven League One striker, and he's hit the ground running. I think it's 3-4 for him so far at Cambridge. Um, he's looking really well, and I think he's a really good player. I do quite like Lyle Taylor. And the other one I picked out is Owen Moxon, who has moved from Carlisle to Portsmouth. Probably, for my money, one of the best midfielders in the division. Statistically, he's up there in terms of the best midfielders in the division. That feels like a big loss for Carlisle for me in their sort of relegation fight. But it's hard to keep hold of a player like that when you've got the best team in the league knocking at your door for him.
Yeah, yeah, and to be fair, not just Moxie as well. I think Portsmouth have done well to pick up a couple of other players. Well, Carlisle themselves have not done great, but he's obviously a player of good quality. They brought in Tom McIntyre as well, from Reading to Portsmouth, and he's a great, solid centre half option as well. Callum Lang from Wigan as well. These are all great signings, sort of solid League One, possibly lower end championship. So they are sort of planning ahead, I think, for if they don't get promoted, which well, you can never say never, given the past couple of seasons where they have dropped off. But he's a great player. Well, they're all great players, and I think it's good planning on Portsmouth's behalf. Um, yeah, the fact that they are sort of planning for life in the Championship, um, with those signings, including Moxon. I think we are just having a couple of technical difficulties, but we'll get Jamie back as soon as possible. He also mentioned Lyle Taylor, proven League One goal scorer with Charlton, as with he spent a bit of time at Wickham as well at the start of the season, and he eventually moved to Cambridge. He's got that relationship with Macaulay Bonne now at Cambridge, almost sort of replica of the partnership they had at Charlton. Um, yeah, Bonne and Taylor, back together as they were in the Charlton days. So those are probably the highlight signings. Jamie's just trying to get back for his internet connection. In terms of the club that perhaps did the best, I think was Portsmouth. In my opinion, they brought in clever signings. They had the injury to Robertson, and they were able to bring in replacements for him. Derby did well to bring a couple of players in as well. Barnsley, couple on deadline day as well. Josh Earl from Fleetwood on a permanent basis. Um, it's all across. But in general, it was a bit of a quiet a window for League One. And I think we're just awaiting Jamie to come back, and then we can crack on with the rest of the games. What's set to come is a sort of a look at the games from the weekend, including the big one at the bottom, Fleetwood Port Vale, and the big one at the top as well between Bolton and Barnsley. Just awaiting Jamie to come back. I know it's been a couple of minutes now, but I'm sure we can wait for him to come back. And here he is, in
There
fact,
we
Jamie.
go.
The wonder returns.
I don't know what's happened, but
Let
it's
me
totally gone.
Let
I'm
me
on, I'm
waffle
on the
on.
hotspot now.
Just let me waffle on for the past couple of minutes. But we were out. I sort of, well, I say just saying, but I think well, although it's been a quiet window in general, I think Portsmouth have bought well and they bought clever, bought a couple of extra signings. Callum Lang from Wigan, a shrewd bit of business. McIntyre from Reading, I mentioned earlier. Moxon, as you pointed out as well. So they're obviously prepared for the Championship, because those are probably lower Championship quality players. Should they get promoted come the end of the season, but if they don't, then they're still very good League One players.
Definitely, that's it. I mean, they've assembled a good squad, and they've added to it nicely in this window. And it's probably the standout club in terms of transfers. And at Lincoln, I don't think have done too badly, especially towards the end. A couple of decent additions. But yeah, Portsmouth have really improved there. And before we move on to the games of the weekend and a little bit about Oxford, I think there's a bit of an issue going on there. We'll take a very quick break. So, welcome back to the League One podcast this week, and we will move on now to the games from the weekend as we look back on another round, a full round of League One games. 4 red cards in 12 games. I'll let you start, say, with your game. Barnsley 1, Bolton Wanderers 1. That Devante Cole goal in the 5th minute, sort of cancelled out by Zach Ashworth in the second, and a draw for 2 teams fighting for promotion.
Yeah, it's weird the way you've just put that, because yeah, as you said, Barnsley scored it in the first half and Bolton scored in the second half, but actually both teams had their sort of the best chances, the best sort of period of play in the opposing half. So Barnsley did better in the second half despite scoring in the first, and Bolton did better in the first half despite scoring in the second. So Barnsley got quite a few chances in the second half and were just caught out by. Well, I think the Barnsley players wanted a foul on Herbie Kane. It wasn't given. And then the crossing box from Collins and was nodded by Ashworth. But Devante Cole got in the early goal from the Barry Cotter throw-in. Great to see some set pieces proving dividend between two sides. And yeah, Barnsley probably, I think, came away with this. Going into the game, you'd want a point. Well, you'd take a point, really. Bolton are solid. They're on a great run of form. So you would take a point. However, Barnes' overall performance, I think, probably should have taken 3. But we come away with a point, which is obviously better than none. But given the performance, especially in that second half, where we did have the majority of the ball, you would have taken 3 points. But a solid point against a solid side, and Devante Cole scoring yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Doncaster fan. I don't ever hide it too well. We had Devante Cole, and he couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo, and I know he's gone up to Bolton, and now he can't stop scoring. I always look and I
It's
always
taken a
see
few
when he
years.
scored.
It's taken a few years for him to get scoring. I think he joined the club in 2021, and it was only last season where he really got firing, and then continued that into this season as well. But before that, he was poor. He's actually second spell at the club. He was on loan when he was like 19, 20 something player. But his second spell at the club. But he's great. I think it's 18th for the season now. He's out of contract this summer, so certainly one to watch out for. But yeah, 18th, I think it was, of the season at the weekend against Bolton. But yeah, clearly Doncaster Rovers didn't see the best best quality Devantical, and fortunately Barnsley are seeing that right now.
It's always the way. When we had Alfie May and we couldn't make him score goals the way we played to him, and then he's left, and now another one can't stop scoring. But you mentioned there with Barnsley that it's not a bad point, and I think especially in the light that Peterborough lost, didn't they, this week, and their incredible unbeaten run, is over. Lost to Wigan. It was a 24 game. That can't be right. 14 games, I think, in the league. It's their first loss since November 11th, which was against. Can you have a guess who that was against on November 11th?
Bolton?
Wigan.
Wigan,
That's the
wow.
funny fact. There's a link.
Wow.
Wigan have done the double over them, which was um, quite funny. 2 goals in injury time for Peterborough, making it maybe a bit more respectable, but they 3-0 down going into injury time, and it's a defeat for Darren Ferguson's man.
Yeah, I mean, that result in itself has seen sort of Peterborough just slightly just come back in the league. I think they were second before the start of the games on Saturday, so they have dropped down to fourth, 3 points now off second. So it just shows sort of how tight it is at the top. I feel like I'm on repeat every week, but it's really tight there. And Peterborough just losing one game has seen them drop down 2 places. So it's really tight in there. I wouldn't read too much into this, although I've got the double over Peterborough. I think Peterborough are a strong side, so I think they'll obviously come back. I can't really. I know next up they've got Exeter away. I can't see them losing to Exeter, but you never know. But I see them be able to come back stronger from this. Just a little blip. But just on Peterborough, I don't know if you saw, but deadline day, Coventry signed from Mason Clark,
Yeah,
but then have agreed to loan him straight back
loaded him back. Yeah.
for the end of the season. So the current top goal scorer this season, and they haven't got much use of him for much longer, given he's going at the end of the season. But I just thought that was quite interesting, given that he has got 15 so far this season for Posh, and has been one of their and the league's better players this season. And they're going to miss him when he goes in the summer. But yeah, in terms of that result at Wigan, I wouldn't read too much into it. Yes, it was a disappointing defeat, but no doubt they'll come back stronger.
I mean, it's one of those. These sort of runs, they have to come to an end eventually. They can't keep winning every week. And yeah, like you mentioned there with Coventry coming in for Mason Clark. I mean, he's gone at the end of the season, and Johnson Clark Harris looks like he's going to leave at the end of the season as well, with his contract running out. So if they do get promoted, it would be very interesting to see how they get on if they're the two of their best attacking outlets both on their way out. It looks like.
That sorry, not Mason Clark. That Clark Harris situation, I just can't get my head around. So obviously
Bonkers,
he was set to go in the summer to Bristol Rovers. For every reason that didn't work out, and then it was I think more or less agreed that then he'd go in the January window.
Yeah.
He agreed a fee. Well, it looked like it was going to go back to Bristol Rovers, but it was actually going to be Charlton. So he agreed a fee with Charlton. And Peterborough wanted to get rid of him. He's a big earner for League One. It's a lot of money off the wage bill. If they do, if they do get rid of him to another club, so it looked set as if he was going to go join Charlton, but they couldn't agree personal terms, so he didn't end up going. So he's ended up staying at Peterborough. He's not actually been that involved for Peterborough this season, and actually has spent a lot of time on the bench. Yes, he's probably earning. I think he's one of, if not the biggest earner at the club, but he's not actually playing. If he went to Charlton, I think he'd be playing every week. He'd be there, their focal point, their number 9 target man, and the club agreed it, but just they couldn't agree personal terms. So now Peterborough have got a player that they don't really want, and if anything they want to get rid of, but they're being forced, if you like, to pay his wages. So maybe they'll be glad when he goes in the summer. Don't get me wrong, he's been great, a great servant for the club, but just to get rid of his wage off the books of the club.
Yeah, it's an interesting, wasn't it? What it's been sort of like a saga. I know in January when we were doing the League One podcast, it seemed every week we'd do a Johnson Clark Harris update just because there was something new, a new revelation in that. But yeah, it looks like it's going to peter out towards the end of the season there. But somewhere that another team who are hoping they won't peter out towards the end of the season is Portsmouth. They're top of the league still, a 4-1 victory against Northampton. But before we talk about the actual game, have you seen the red card in this game, Seb? Tom McIntyre with one of the worst red card decisions I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've seen this one. I don't think it's as bad as people are making out.
Wow.
There's definitely a foul there. I can see it did take me a few watches of this. I did have to watch it a couple of times. I can see why the referee has given the red card. I can see. I'm
It's
not.
a
This is not.
shocker. It's a
This is not me.
shocker. He's
This is not
missed
me.
him.
This is not me agreeing with the referee. Maybe a yellow card, fair enough. But I can see why he's given the red card.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like a pylon for the
A full,
the
yeah.
officiating.
No, it's harsh for Tom McIntyre on his debut. He's going to miss 3 games, obviously suspended. But I can see why. Don't get me wrong. It is harsh, like I say. But in the referee's defence, I can see why he's given it.
Yeah. I
Um,
think from his vantage point, it probably looked like he did catch him. I know from like the angle that's behind the uh, attacker that he's not touched him, or at best he's brushed him. As in from the referee's perspective on the other side, it looks like he cleared him out really.
yeah, yeah.
So it's one of those, isn't it? It's a perspective issue there. But on the actual game, as I said, a 4-1 victory. That's a really convincing win. And yeah, it's 4 games unbeaten now for them, and it's the second time this season that they've scored 4 in a game. I won't make you quiz on that one. It was Leighton Orient, the other team they've scored 4
Yeah,
against.
I don't never got that. But I think what was impressive for me is when they did go down to 10 for the red card, they scored 2 goals afterwards. Not
Mm,
when sides normally go down to 10, they're a little bit more defensive, a little bit more reserved. But not with Portsmouth. They end up getting 2 goals. I mean, yes, they conceded 1 when they were down to 10, but they went out. They didn't prevent sort of their attacking rhythm, their flow of the game. They went out and scored 2 more through Lane and Davidson Lang as well. So yeah, Portsmouth are definitely a force to be reckoned with, even with only 10 men. But yeah, a great dominant performance from Pompey. Northampton, I'll be honest, I wasn't surprised that they fell to a defeat. But overall, I think that the season has been pretty good. Sitting in 11th currently. I think fans of Northampton will be more than happy with their position and not too disappointed with a defeat to Portsmouth. We all know the quality they possess. We spoke earlier about the players that they brought in during the window as well. So yeah, a good victory for Portsmouth. Paddy Lane brace as well. Yeah, and yeah, I think overall a good performance.
definitely a good performance for Portsmouth and a great performance for Lincoln. A 1-0 win away at Burton. They played 60 minutes with 10 men after Alex Mitchell got sent off in the first half. It's their first win since November, but 3 draws in a row. They're now unbeaten in 4 and 3 clean sheets in a row as well. So it's on the up. I know I talked about last week, and maybe this I'll just do a bit of a victory lap that I talked about last week, that they were on the up. A good couple of performances against Derby and Peterborough, and they've got the win that they've kind of been working their way towards in those couple of games. And they've got to fight really hard. To 60 plus minutes with 10 men, and they've pulled out a victory away from home at Burton. It's not an easy place to go either. And Rico Hackett scoring the goal for them, ex-Portsmouth, of course. And yeah, I think it's a really cracking result for Lincoln, that one.
Yeah, I think so as well. And Burton, obviously now under the ownership of, not ownership, under the management of Patterson, only his 3rd game in charge. So you would have expected a dominant display. The 2 prior to that, they'd won and they'd drawn. And then to come to this one and fall to defeat to Lincoln. Yeah, a bit disappointed for Burton, but in terms of Lincoln, to cling on for just more than 60 minutes with 10 men and to get the goal just after half time, a key time really. Just after both teams had come out for the second period, so a key time to get that goal, and they were able to hang on and claim the 3 points. So yeah, a good sort of battling display for
Mm.
for Albion and for City even, and unbeaten in four, as you said. So pretty solid run under Skubala.
Yeah, I think battling's probably the best word, isn't it, for a performance like that? Really pulling something out of nothing with a victory with 10 men for such a long time. And Ben House, it was his first game back, came off the bench after his long term injury, and that's only can be good for Lincoln, pushing them maybe a little bit further with another attacking option. And Conor McGrandles made his re-debut for the club. He joined on deadline day, right at the 11th hour at 10 o'clock. They announced that. He signed on loan, but from Charlton. Obviously left Lincoln to go to Charlton in 2021, I think, a couple of years ago, not too long ago. But he's back and played a nice cameo by all accounts there. So moving on, then we've talked a little bit about Port Vale and their defeat to Fleetwood. Well, the other end of it is a Fleetwood win, 14 games without one, and they've finally got one. It's their first since the 11th of November, which was also a 3-0 win. That one against Exeter. I'm pulling out all the quirky
Pulling out all the
stats today.
stats today. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Liking it. Liking it.
and it's a first win for Charlie Adam as a manager.
Yeah, I mean, going into this one, two sides around the bottom. So it could have gone one or two ways. Could have been high scoring, or it could have been just sort of a ball draw that sort of just peters out with two teams of poor quality. But fortunately, Fleetwood were able to show a glimpse of what they can do and what they are capable of. With a 3-0 victory over Port Vale, and as you said, does end the 14-game winless run, and I believe a first win under Charlie Adam. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, first
Yeah.
win.
So I think a great win for Fleetwood brings them off the foot of the table
Yeah.
for the first time in a while, albeit it's still 8 points from safety. But you can only go one step at a time, and they've gone that one step by moving one place. So terrific victory for Fleetwood. They just need to push on now, and use that as some sort of momentum. We've seen Jaden Stockley scoring, and Ryan Broom as well. Stockley is when he's on it, is a great player to have in League One, and Fleetwood certainly need to make the most of that. Josh Earl came to Barnsley, Jack Marriott left as well. So they have lost a couple of players, but it's for the players that are currently there to step up and to prove that Fleetwood are a League One side and don't deserve to be relegated.
Yeah, it's a huge win, isn't it? Just getting those points on the board and ending such a bad run. You'll be hoping as a Fleetwood fan that'll be the thing that'll spark something rather than it being a flash in the pan that they can go on a run in the opposite direction now. They've got those 3 points. 8 points from safety they are, with Port Vale in 20th. So, I mean, it's still a really poor situation for them to be in. Cheltenham and Reading above them in the relegation places, and Carlisle dropping to the foot of the table. So, an interesting one that they've picked up a win, but they're still in a really poor spot.
Yeah, really poor. But they will be hoping to make sure it's not just, as you said, just a one-off. That this is just an example of what they are capable of, and they'll be hoping to use this as sort of a springboard. The next couple of games are both away: Bristol Rovers and then Lincoln, before Reading at home and then Barnsley at home is their next four. So that Reading match at home is crucial. The Bristol Rovers and Lincoln one, not so sort of, but both teams punching above their weight probably this season. But they need to get as much as possible from as many games as possible. But that Reading game will be key for Fleetwood.
Mm. You mentioned Reading, and that is the last thing we've got to talk about this week. And it was their opponents, Oxford, a draw in that one. And it's Oxford now 4 games without a win after that draw on Saturday. And they're 1 point now outside the playoffs. It's an interesting one. When Des Buckingham, took over in November, when Liam Manning was sacked, I should say, they were second in the table. And they're now 7th. So it's a bit of a drop, and there's some really great teams in those playoffs. So they've slipped behind that the pack that are going for the automatics, and I don't think it's anywhere near panic stations, but a little bit of a struggle they're in, and a draw against a team at the wrong end of the table like Reading. It's not a good sign.
No, I mean, I for one, I'll be honest, when Oxford were up there at the start of the season, I didn't expect them to maintain that. So I'm not
Mm,
surprised to see them drop off away from the top six. Because I didn't expect them to be there in the first place. But you're right in terms of some of the performances, some of the results that we've seen from Oxford in recent weeks. They are, of course, going to be some concern. I could see them dropping down even further as well. They're currently in seventh, as you said, but Blackpool are in eighth, and I see Blackpool pushing for the
mm.
final playoff spot. Um, and I do see Oxford sort of dropping off a little bit, but it is a concern. I think dropping off so far down, but I think they were always overachieving anyway at the start of the season by sitting so high so early on. We have seen some glimpses of some good performances. Managed to get a home draw to Portsmouth, um, but then they drew at Reading, so it sort of contradicts itself. Holding on for that home point against the promotion chasing Portsmouth, which they are, but then also home the week after drawing to relegation threatened Reading. So probably lacking consistency a little bit. Um, you know, taking two steps forward and then one step back. It's not quite sticking. Some of the performances haven't been great. League table position, it's good. It's probably where you'd expect Oxford to be, but given the start of the season, it is a little bit disappointing to see them sort of drop out of the playoff reckoning. Uh, for me, I didn't expect them to be in the promotion pusher, so I probably would have put them at the start of the season around seventh, eighth place in the league. So for me, they're sort of meeting expectations, but compared to where they were at the start, it is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think it shows how good Liam Manning was doing, wasn't it, before he got that move
Yeah, oh, massively,
to
yeah.
Bristol? Yeah, it really does. I mean, they've got players like Cameron Brannigan. I mean, he's a championship footballer. I don't think there's any debate on that anymore. Ruben Rodriguez, obviously a good player. I think they've got a decent squad, and they've got a top half of the league squad. If not, it's a squad that should be pushing for the playoffs, which is obviously where they are. So maybe you're right in that they were overachieving a little bit under Liam Manning. Maybe they are adjusting to where you'd expect them to be. But it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. See if they can sort of turn it around in the next few. They've got Blackpool next week,
Ooh,
which
tough
is
game, tough game.
the
Yeah,
interesting one. Really tough game. And
yeah.
you'll catch on Thursday. Callum and Sam, they'll be talking like a preview for the weekend. I'm sure they'll be talking about that one. A real fight for those teams pushing towards the playoffs. That one.
Can I just ask quickly, Jamie? Did you expect Oxford to drop off like I did, or did you think they'd hang on there?
I don't think I expected them to drop off as quickly. I mean, Des Buckingham came in with such hype, and it was at the time Lincoln were looking for a manager, and he was one of the names rumored with that. He was the favourite for a few days, and it was we were all ready for the announcement. Get ready, type Des Buckingham on the keyboard, sort of thing. But it didn't happen. He ended up at Oxford. Obviously, he came up coaching through the academy at Oxford, so it made sense that he went back there. But with all the hype that he had, and obviously he's in the City group, isn't he? He was at Mumbai and he'd done some work in New Zealand and Australia. And despite how young he is, he's got great coaching experience. He's been coaching for quite a while. And I was expecting a little bit of a drop off, but not this much. I was expecting him still to be in the playoffs and pushing for the automatics rather than looking up to the playoffs. And yeah, it's an interesting one for me. They've had a few poor results along the way. I know it was against Coventry, they got battered, didn't they, in the FA Cup, which
They
one that
did in the
stands
cup,
out for
yeah.
me. And it's an interesting one that it hasn't gone so smoothly, but it's a big adjustment, isn't it, into the football league with the schedule. I guess maybe that's one of the things that as Des Buckingham might be struggling with, and it'll come with time, I think.
Yeah, and not all of that is the teams that are above them in the league table. they are good teams. They are quality teams. Portsmouth Derby currently top 2, and then the top 6. Other than Stevenage, you probably would expect them to be there. Bolton, Peterborough, Barnsley, and then Stevenage just sneaking in 6th place. You probably would expect all those teams to be there. So I'm not really surprised to see Oxford sort of beaten to those places. Maybe if they'd snuck into 6th place, I wouldn't have been too surprised. But I probably would have had them around 7th, 8th position in the league. But there's just some quality teams in the division, in that top 8, if you like. I know Sam always says that the league sort of split into 3 mini leagues of 8.
Yeah.
You've got the top 8, you've got the middle 8, and then you've got the bottom 8. So I did expect Oxford to just be in that top 8. So I'm not too surprised by the downfall, but it's not really a downfall. It's just
No, they're still 7th, but it's
they
not. It's
are,
one of those,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
I've picked it out, and they're still 7th. Yeah.
yeah. They're sort of meeting expectation rather than
Yeah.
exceeding expectation.
Fantastic. I mean, that's a nice note to end on there. A little bit of discussion. It looks ahead to Thursday as well. Sam and Callum, you can join them as they look ahead to the weekend coming in. You can join us same place, same time next week as we'll review another weekend of League One action. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for watching on YouTube. And this has been the League One podcast from Lower League Look.